Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. This was a terrible idea. Never mind. I will carry on. This is honestly, this is the worst ever. This is by far the worst thing I've ever done. But we shall continue on. Whatever conditions, whatever it takes, we shall get to the truth. The truth that I don't know how to wear this properly, and that this light is terrible, and all the other things. This one's called Moving Targets. And it's probably the biggest problem that we seem to have. Oh, come on. Yeah. Okay, let's hope that we're here. Moving targets. It seems that there is a left, there's a global, and this is what we have to get into. There is a global white, left-leaning concept of progression. And so we have to kind of build, I'm going to have to draw some fucking things. We have to build like enclosures, okay? Because obviously, these things should be obvious but aren't. Obviously, the white European or like British concept of normal, to have progress, you have to have something normalized for a long enough period of time for you to then attempt the process of progression on it, okay? So this normal existed in a circle of structures that contained it, but it's like it didn't contain everyone. It contained white British descendants or white British people. Okay, so and this is the problem as well. It's like as soon as you go to do anything like this, because one of the units of measure of progress is the acceptability of other inputs into this structure. And so then you're fighting a claim. Are you saying they're not allowed in? And I'm saying no. I am saying that is not progress. It's like if you are keeping score on the amount of progress you are bringing and not countering that with the amount of chaos you are bringing, then you are no longer in the container. You are like migrants. You have migrated. Which way is this? Let's just whatever. You have migrated outside the container to bring your so-called progress, okay? And you are attempting to drag the container towards you, towards your obviously superior, enlightened concept. This is ideological colonization. If you think about the British Empire, it's like I'm in Australia. This is quite literally what people did to colonize Australia. They went to a place, they took it over, and then they said, it's good here. Come. Right. But that's a little bit different. That created like a secondary container that just emulated the first one. Okay, and as you can imagine, like, think about the analogy of a petri dish filled with a deadly virus. Okay, there is, when you watch that, it's like, oh, it's this little dot. Okay, it's growing, it's growing. There's a moment in that. If you imagine an infinite-sized petri dish, there is going to be a clear moment where that expansion is unstoppable and out of control, off the rails. You can't control what it's going to do. You know what I mean? You might start with chickenpox and it might end up being Ebola by the end of it. I don't know. So it's a weird, stupid analogy. But the problem is, so when you consider the demands, which immediately is a strange way to bring progress. You are demanding things. You know, that's not how our system works. The only reason you think you can demand is because you've left the container of our system, are floating out here in chaos, and are now making demands on the claim that your new creation is superior. But it is only superior on your perceived or your reinforced moral grounds, which are yet to be stabilized in a container. So it's like this is literally the problem with any type of colonization. Okay, and let's just zoom out to fucking Mars now and imagine we're speaking about colonizing Mars. There are going to be, and there is right now, there is a really good example of this. There's Elon Musk. He is so gung-ho to go to Mars and colonize that place. You know, it's like, you can guarantee he will twist the truth. He will bend reality. He will, you know, fudge numbers. He will do whatever it takes to get people to come to Mars with him. Okay, but the one thing that Elon has different is like, he's not then trying to expand the realm of normalcy and stability with Mars. That's different. He is attempting to colonize Mars and go through the normal process. He will go there and do it, and, you know, he might be the king of Mars. But I say that there's no way that Elon is going to expand the scope of the world for us all to live through the mindset of what it takes for someone to colonize Mars. Okay? This ultra leftist, you know, multicultural, multi-ethnic, you know, radical feminist, radical experimentation, radical political democratic experimentation, you know, radical socialized experimentation is like Mars. And this is the thing, it's like, we had this experiment run in the appropriate way all across the world in the 70s. All across the world. They were called communes. They were called hippie communes. You know, that was a maybe derogatory term, but they were called communes. And thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of communes were started by, you know, absolutely dedicated and spirited and, you know, optimistic people from all races already in the 70s. Now, out of the thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of hippie communes that were started in the 70s, how many do you think succeeded? Almost none. I kid you not. There is about 5. Last time I checked. There's about 5 cases of well-functioning hippie communes around the world. And usually that means that they have some type of dictating system. They have a supreme, they either have a complete owner and then a lease, or they have a spiritual leader, or they have just a real tyrant. Even if the tyrant, it doesn't even matter if they're bad, it's that's it. The majority of the egalitarian, utopian, naval fucking obsessed communes failed. Epic failure. I have been studying this for 15 years. Epic failure is not something to emulate. You could argue that the reason for this container here, and this is what we need to understand, this container is not designed nor intended to provide every single person with every single wish and fantasy or or unit of pleasure that they could possibly dream up. It is just to provide security and stability. That is it. Security and stability. That is all it is doing. So the only question, this circle, stability, security. Stability and security. So really what should happen now? Let's pick the turn of the century. Let's pick 1901 because that's the centenary of our federation, right? 1901 in Australia, we had a firm structure, and even probably an even more firm structure. This is the other thing, that it's where do we stop? Okay, do we talk about federation of the Australian container, or do we talk about the British Empire container? We need to be clear on all these things before we can do anything. So for the moment, let's just talk about the Australian Federation container that was purely designed for stability and security. Okay? Any attempt to bring progress by progressives, and this is the best thing, it's they've self-declared this, so we know that they are this. We know that that is what they're attempting to bring. We need to get back to political discussions that are not wandering into fucking fantasy fairy tales. It's just these things. Okay, your claim is that you've brought progress. Do you understand the core principle that your progress needs to be measured against those two conditions, stability and security, from a governed, hard and fast baseline, which we are going to claim is 1901 Federation of Australia? Then all you could possibly do, no matter which party, and this should be all parties, I think the current parties weren't even present during this. I don't think that, these are new creations. So this actually, that which is good, because it means that, it means that all parties have to bring this report. Now the problem is, in my opinion, and I think in the opinion of everyone existing, not just in the Australian Federation, in the British Empire or the Commonwealth at 1901, is that the core responsibility of the empire or of the structure was to provide stability and security for their own people. Okay? We do not, that like the concept of a global government is a radical progressive ideology. Okay? And I would say an absolutely reckless and dangerous ideological experiment. It's dangerous enough when it is just in conversation, but that is not what we are seeing. You know, if thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of small, independent experiments in egalitarian, multicultural system design all failed, you know, and in the worst cases, they failed with mass suicide, okay? Let's just have that on the like screen. You know what I mean? If I had a sign there, I could write on the wall, mass suicide. Let's do it here. Fuck it. Just so we know that we're not talking about anything else. You know, we're not talking about some people's coffee wasn't good, or there wasn't, you know, we ran out of fucking donuts, or like, you know, the hot water ran out. We're talking about mass suicide. That's the fucking low point of these thousands of experiments. And unfortunately, like, it's a significant number. It's not, you know, it's probably 1%, maybe 2%, which is a lot. Considering it's like a trial of a, you know, what is can only be determined is like the absolute 100% dedicated purpose of these people out here trying to drag the structure out to them on the fucking outskirts of sanity. But they're not ever going to, they're not ever like, oh yeah, well, there was some mass suicide, among other things. And there was a catastrophic failure rate. But come out, the weather's fine. It's like, no, the weather's not fine. If the weather was fine, if the report, if the weather, what do they call it? The weather. Anyway, if it looked clear on the horizon, I wouldn't be sitting here every day doing this, and you know, neither would countless other people. And so I'm doing the only thing I know how to do. It's like we need to get down to business. It's like this is the now purpose of every single political party, I would say, in the former British Empire, including in America, including in the United States. It's obviously like they have already done this. You know, they just exposed every British descendant to a potentially never-ending fucking terrorist onslaught with no more than some fucking tarot cards, it seems. That's a big problem. Okay, and we haven't strayed outside of our ethnic group yet. See, we had a clear cultural and you know, spiritual and organizational concepts in 1901, which took care, not in a utopian fashion, which took care. And it's like, and they weren't overly policed. Okay, they were policed. They weren't obsessively policed by, say, like a fucking, you know, a military guard of an Islamic regime. That we were nowhere near that. In fact, if you're from the British Empire, it's like our entire empire was in conflict. Its whole existence was spent in conflict with a bipolar Christian empire, like the world, in which you could only describe that we were up against, a type of religious extremism. We were reforming our hyper-curated Christian world. We've already done this. We had already done this in 1901. Okay. The progress of these radical fucking extremists out here, these radical progressives, these radical leftists, is like, I'm talking, the Protestant Reformation was here. You know what I mean? Just outside the circle, and we shifted, which means we shifted the whole circle here. That's it. That's what it looked like. And that was hundreds and hundreds of years of war. Hundreds of years of war and conflict. All held within like pretty common, pretty like uniform cultural, ethnic, not totally, but compared to like, even if you compare an Italian to an Englishman, you know what I mean, or a German to or a Greek to an Englishman, or any of these things, anyone from the Mediterranean to this, okay? You compare that to an Islamic regime, it's insane. And in fact, every single region in that region I just described has been in conflict with an Islamic regime of one sort or another for a couple of thousand years or 1,000 years. That's part of the threat base that made up the need, that defined the need for stability and security. It's clear that all these people are doing is denying reality. They are dissociating from historic reality and claiming ownership over an experimental, unproven concept of ultimate global harmony, of world peace. They are lunatics. And they're doing it with the simplicity, with the optimism. And this is the thing, it's like they're writing their own checks. Oh, well, look, we're optimistic. I know. You're suicidally optimistic. Oh, we're egalitarian. I know. You're suicidally egalitarian. You claim that this everyone who exists in this container here, this stable, secure container, you're claiming that they didn't wish for such things, that they didn't hope, that they didn't pray for these things. Well, I can guarantee you they actually prayed for these things a lot more than any of you do. They were ultra dedicated to these things. They had religious structures and systemic, like organized, a million things existed within this stable, secure structure that didn't dictate what everybody else did, that just solely focused on either personal, spiritual activity or collective spiritual activity that could only be described as one thing. It was hoping to bring peace and global peace. That is what Christianity is. Just read the book. It's thought that's like, Jesus was like some type of character. He was radical. He wasn't. He wasn't. He didn't stray all the way out here. He didn't speak about such things as multiculturalism. He was a representative of a culture that was already being discriminated against. And this is the thing, it's like, I'm an Australian. No matter what you think out here, I am a discriminated against minority. You know, I represent a pioneering class of British people that pioneered the very land that you're claiming to run this experiment on. And I'm saying this land already is an experiment, and we had a hard enough time, you know, with this container. I couldn't imagine, you know, what would happen if we don't have this fucking container. Maybe that. Statistically speaking, you know, and the thing is, like, I'm not ever going to stop anyone continuing the constant experimentation of small-scale, egalitarian, multicultural, spiritually open communities. I'm not doing that. I have no intention of doing that. I would rather 10,000 fucking, you know, hippie communes around the country, with even if 1% of them ended up all killing themselves, which they probably will, than to be forced to and silenced and fucking handcuffed and stuck in fucking prison for not going along with this global hippie commune bullshit. You see, it just doesn't work. It's like you're not playing fair, you know, and that's, I think, it's like the left and the liberals around the world, they love saying fair. It is their whole thing, is to say fair, 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 fair share, fair, 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 fair. And they love going to fairs, and they fucking have, you know, it's just fair, 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 right? Well, I'm saying it's not fair to compare a utopian, unproven, yet to be fucking completed fucking, you know, concept drawing with a hard and fast reality. And this is the thing, the other thing as well, it's like, you will claim that this structure was racist, that it was homophobic, that it was all these things. It's like, yes, compared to a utopian, experimental, yet to be proven, yet to be completed fucking concept drawing, yeah, I suppose it was. You know, it wasn't radically exclusionary. It just had a slow permeability. You know, this outer ring here was a slow it had a slow permeability. That's it. It's not an air, it's not, you know, a vacuum, it's not a solid, you know, air thing. It's not impenetrable. Like our skin isn't impenetrable. You know, if we put some of these radically fucking experimental fucking, you know, concoctions of creams and face creams and fucking God knows what, because all this stuff is like, it gets through. And the problem is, it's like your radical experimentation you're doing with the world, you would be all dead if you weren't tethered. Let's write that on there. You are tethered to our structure. You are out on air hoses like on fucking, you know, the International Space Station. You're tethered. The problem is there's so many of you that you're disrupting our gravity, our local gravity. You know, you're blowing your carbon dioxide back in the bubble. You're yelling into it. You're like, it's fucking wonderful out here. We have to do this. We have to bring this to the bubble. Now, the problem is like there are people, you know, it's far easier to meet someone out on a tether and corrupt them into, destroying the fucking homeland. And this is what's happening. Yeah, this is why it's like we didn't just willy-nilly let anyone captain a ship, like especially exploratory. Like this would be, there would be huge things. It's like Exhibit A, Christopher Columbus. You know what I mean? He didn't just have to go and do these things. It's like he had to pull together men and money and ships and royal funding and all these things and fucking this concept and insurance and he had to have all this experience doing these things, and then he was allowed to go and explore these because it was like that was expensive. And it would have been unheard of for him to like he was promising things, but you should all know the fairy tale now. It's like he wasn't promising a new fucking world. He was promising a new route, not a new route like you get on Tinder, but a new route, like a route to get to India. People had already been to India. It already existed. That's a new pathway. This isn't what any of you are doing out there tethered on our fucking system. You're promising a new world. It's a failed expedition. It's a failed on the small scale, on the experimental, in the hippie communes, and it's obviously a failed, when you just expand that scale to the globe, using a reckless, expansion on a digital simulation fucking complex that isn't merely just simulating. It's like you are demanding that we all fucking drink the Kool-Aid of your utopian vision, of your utopian world peace, because that's what all you're doing. It's like a fucking like a yacht race for bullshitters. It's quite possibly the largest waste of fucking resources that's ever existed, and that shows. It shows the structural integrity of our actual container, that we could deal with that. You know what I mean? That's in the wildest dreams of our enemies, or our potential conflict, people that we have conflict with. So the Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians. It's like fucking hell. They can't do that. Their system relies on total control. It has no permeability. In like what, that's common sense. That's stable. That's secure. And so you get back to the point. It's like, oh, it's our concept. See, we're the reformers. So what's happening right now is there is a civil war, a global civil war going on between reformers and ultra-radical neo-reformers. And the ultra-radical neo-reformers are not having the conflicts with the greater world that we've had, with physics, the laws of physics, space, time, chemical fucking, physical reality, physical constraints, true depictions of experimental, results of societal organizations, like all those. They're just fucking daydreaming out there. It's a fucking daydream, reformist fucking pushback onto the already reformed. And it's like, just start mapping this out as if we're mapping out the world, because we are, right? So that dot in the middle of 1901 Australia stable security container, right? You have to compare that dot with other global dots of container, the Soviets container. I don't even think the Soviets existed in 1901, just the Russian Empire, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the United States, the Indians, the Chinese, the Middle East, the Iran, Iraq, all these places. Like, that's how you do it. You're on our train. And at the moment, there's too many of you with your fucking heads and hands outside the fucking train window, and you're going to get fucking hurt. And you're going to slow the journey down. You're already on a progressive journey. And globally speaking, it's going pretty quick. Some would argue, in fact, this is the entire Roman Empire, Christian world's fucking concept, is that we're already moving too quick on our reformative journey, on our Protestant train. You know, some of my ancestors, they were like, fuck that other Christian train. We're gonna win this, like a fucking, you know, like an 1800s gentleman just, we're going to race around the world in 40 days and like the fuck, all this shit, right? And I'm like, hang on a second, no. I can't hear them. Yeah, we're still in front, but I need to listen to them. So we need to slow down so I can actually hear what they're saying, because I need to translate it out of Latin. And they're saying, like, 4 people have fallen out the window, these radical fucking, you know, these radical daydreamers that you've got experimenting at the tip of the fucking known universe. And I'm like, well, you haven't killed one of them. And they're like, no, we don't do that anymore. And I was like, oh, right, okay. All right, we're going to slow down. We're going to slow the fucking train down. We've got to teach our fucking daydreaming fucking radicals, you know, the landscape that they live in. You don't compare, you know, your daydream with our firm precedent. You compare your daydream through the lens of our thing, like, or you leave. You know what I mean? It's like there is no daydreaming out the window of China. There is no daydreaming out the fucking window of Russia. There is no daydreaming out the window of Iran. Now, and this is the most important claim. The places, the diplomatic places where these regions meet, we do not meet. Like, if we meet to negotiate, like, say, I don't know, say there was like a soccer team, like a women's soccer team from Iran, and say these women were being used like fucking pawns in a radical fucking daydreaming fucking lunatic asylum of people that are, you know, very close to falling out their own window of the train that they're on. That is not the place that we negotiate from. If I negotiate with Iran, I say, I'm negotiating from 1901 and we have an unacceptable amount of radical fucking experimentation going on in our periphery, and I'm not happy with the amount of fucking, you know, sabotage influence, terrorist influence you've had with those experimental radicals out on the fringe, considering you are trying to maintain a closed system. Because it gets to comparisons like, right, we have a very large Iranian population in Australia. Now, they're experiencing in Australia with absolutely off the fucking wall experimentation that was only allowed, the groundwork for that was only laid because of the firm foundation of say, 1901. It wasn't intended to, it's not like we're not bringing people in from alien, and this isn't racism, this is technically speaking, alien cultures, you know, they're not here to like scuba dive the Ningaloo Reef of our fucking experiment, radical fucking political, you know, daydreaming. Think about it. This is how fucking crazy all of this shit is. This is like, it's like the people that are taking porn to these untouched tribes of the fucking Amazon. It's like, what is going on? We either speak in the term of national things, which we can speak to Iran, which we need to speak to Iran being like, well, Iran has a domestic conflict between, say, Persian identity and the radical Islamic that is bleeding its migrants because they've left. Out without they're not securing their migrants. Otherwise, this psychiatrist that was, fiddling with my mum's fucking wiring, he'd be dead. The Iranian regime would come here and they would kill him. They're not doing that. And think about the level of experimentation. It's like these women soccer players are getting death threats if their hijab, slips from here to here during a goal celebration, a celebration of a fucking goal in a soccer game. So let's compare that with our stable fucking security fucking thing. Were there any Australian women who were getting death threats if their mandated clothing slipped during a sporting event? And it's like, hang on a second, females even playing sport was a concept that we came up with in 1901. So it's like, this isn't a fucking conversation for anyone out here to be having. You're not on solid fucking land. You're out in the fucking wilderness as far as like structures are concerned. And then to take that even further, it's like you've created an international incident with a known enemy, in cahoots with like another known enemy, from radical fucking extreme military action that's coming from the US, on the basis of a fucking daydream. You have forgotten how to appropriately navigate the fucking international waters of the world. We don't have pick and choose, cherry-picked fucking refugees to appease a fucking delusion, to appease a fucking experiment. How could we have that? That is only going to amplify every single tension. And we don't even have clear things on, like, our own over-progression is in conflict here. And you won't let us speak about it because it ends up sounding a little bit too white. If we go, well, the white people are in conflict in Australia. They're in conflict in Australia because the secure and stable structure of its federation have been subjected to radical experimentation, which is exactly what the Iranian regime is trying to prevent. And the concept of like it is utopianism. It's like it's the most ridiculous. It's like where literally the Labor Party of Australia is going, we're going to solve this conflict around the world. We're going to solve the tensions of a foreign fucking empire, the internal conflict of a foreign empire with 4 fucking soccer playing women that only exist because of our example. They are already, the fact that they have a women's soccer team playing in Australia is already an appeasement to our conditions from an appropriately stable and secure time. Okay? Their problem with our government is the same as our internal problem with our government, but we have to respect cultural differences from a stable position of negotiation, not from an experimental radical fucking, and especially knowing that this ultra experimental radical fucking concept drawing has every one of our enemies leaning on it to push us into absolute absurdity. This is where, like, there's a thing for this in government. It's called a vote of no confidence. That's what we have, a vote of no confidence on the Labor Party right now, because look at what they're doing. There's no like, thank you, in the middle of a war. You know, knowing all this, it's like you sent a women's soccer team to come and play soccer. Thank you. Thank you. You know, we're not the fucking army of the world to defend refugees. In the global diplomatic scene. Like, how? We're not even dealing with our domestic backlog of the exact same concept. And the reason we're not is because our version of the hijab slipping, right? We didn't have, well, we did. Nuns had these, right? And nuns, you know, they did things. They created a fucking, you know, a spiritual fucking weapon. They did cause some trouble. We're like, that's too complicated. And it doesn't have the fucking icon of the clothing apparel. So we can't conceptualize it. It's like, this is government level. This is global level procrastination of our own issues. This is classically what women do. You could argue like that structure of women's oppression, in their fucking words, was designed because we'd already experienced the fact that women project outward. They look at everyone else and say, well, I know what's wrong with you. I know what's wrong with you. I know what's wrong with you. And I know what's wrong with you. And they will never look at themselves. Even if you want the obvious little jab there, you go, you're doing that as well. I'm like, yeah, because I'm playing a woman on the internet, aren't I? I'm doing a fucking good job of it. It's just that I'm pointing back to this, which almost no woman on fucking planet Earth, no Western liberal fucking like feminist woman will ever point back to the stable structure for us to get an accurate reading. Because in their minds, in their ideology, that's the structure they escaped. It can only be described, you know, and this is where I love getting criticism. I've got some criticism here, down in my fucking, I've got some criticism here in my comment section from someone using the pseudonym of my children's stepfather who kidnapped my children so that he could drink and wander down the fucking hallway and try and open their locked doors. You know, while he claims that he's the fucking savior of them. That's radical experimentation. While he's defended by the entire fucking force of the Western Australian Police Force. What? A non-homeowner, you know, first-generation immigrant. A non-homeowner, first generation of white immigrants has kidnapped a historic family's, you know, children and gone through every level of systemic fucking control that it can get through, into our health system, our policing system, you know, our child support system, which is a little thing there. What is child support on a fucking moving target? Child support is owning a fucking property. That's it. That's the essential concept of child support. If you don't own a property, you are not supporting your children, nor your grandchildren, nor your great-grandchildren. That is our fucking system of stability and security. I don't fucking care how much fucking Netflix documentaries you're watching out here on the fucking periphery, still tethered to our freehold fucking empire. You do not get to throw these fucking things around. You cannot answer these concepts. It's all external. You cannot police. And it's funny, I made a fucking joke about Gaza and fucking Gaza and Israel 2 years ago when it was right in the heat of it. And I said, hey, it's all right. I know how to fix Gaza being, decimated by Israeli bombs. We just send the West Australian police there with a restraining order. That's an ultimate fucking joke. But that is literally this Labor Party's policy right now. They have stolen 4 Iranian soccer players, which never would have been here. They never would have they've moved. They've moved arguably, more than we have. They're where we were in 1901. Well done. Well done. Did they win? How did they play? What are their names? What were their skills like? What are their aspirations within their newly liberated Islamic regime? All these things, all these questions that should be asked from the perspective of 1901. We should be meeting as fucking equals. They have used their resources to slowly but surely, attempt. They cannot fast track it. That would be reckless. They are stably and securely, progressing, reforming their archaic, precedents, and that is proven simply by the fact that there was a women's football team here playing. And once again, our ridiculously out of control fucking government has decided to play Russian roulette on the international fucking scene with sports stars, hearkening back to the days of the pandemic with Novak Djokovic in the same exact ridiculous fucking, status game of experimentation. What? Why? Why have you done this? We are not a haven for ultra radical fucking experimental fucking Iranians. Because we're also not a haven, or shouldn't be, a haven for our own ultra fucking radical experimentational mass suicide delusional fucking experimental fucking utopianists here either. That's our domestic issue. That's our 1901 domestic, you could call it white, domestic white Australian argument right now. That is our domestic political landscape. Well before you introduce anything else. You can comb the archives of all our forebears, which we don't talk about. You know what I mean? Which show, that's one of the largest things. It shows that we're on the tip of the bulldozer of a fucking communist delusion, of a suicidal, out of control fucking prime minister that has no aspiration as opposed to decimating our history entirely. All on the promises of absolute fucking lies. But if you look and discuss, the conversations going on from our forebears who established this country that we, is still fucking holding together, which shows how well it was put together. They would not just celebrate this gesture by the Iranian regime. They would welcome them into, it's like this This is the Australia that we need to rediscover. You know, we need to learn to look back at ourselves as a whole. The British Empire has been in decline for 80, 90 years. Okay. That decline, in combination with the progress and reformation of people like Iran, we are meeting, you know, once we ignore the radical fucking fringe for a moment, which unfortunately happens to be our government at the moment. But once we ignore them for just a moment, we are meeting as equals on the global scene, and that allows us to negotiate on, you know, the next 100 years of distribution of commodities and resources and things like that, which is all we would ever want. We don't want to overly have influence on a geographical region. We are a landing ground. You know, I suppose it's like you can land here. As an Iran, if you're not happy with their regime, you can land here. You have two options. You can push back on that. You can push for democracy and go to that, or you can land here. But you can't land here and continue your radical experimentation outside the bounds of our own. And this is the problem. It's like our own radical experimentations by our ultra radical extremists is expanding the acceptable horizon for anyone. Which there are places like this. It's like Cancun. It's like you could go to Cancun and as a woman, as a white woman from America, from North America, and get your tits out and dance around. This was an entire industry. You know, you can go to Ibiza and get fucking slinged off your nut on party drugs and do the same. You can go to fucking France and experiment with your fucking liberal fucking like this. Is it? Australia is not this. It can't be, because it's still fucking being built. I don't want this bullshit. And the problem is, it's like some of the other, like the places I mentioned, they don't want it either. And it's not safe there. And this is the funniest conflict. It's like, oh, it's not safe to be a radical experimental fucking ultra liberal feminist in France anymore, because all the fucking, you know, refugees from all the European and American and fucking British wars are landing in France trying to fuck them. That's exactly the same as what mutinous fucking pirates, mutinous naval operators did in the fucking Pacific Islands, because they were an ultra, you know, liberal fucking sexually experimentation, open fucking society. They weren't a rigid, firm naval ship filled with men. It's like we can't look back at ourselves to realize that this is the same. The fucking Persians here are mutineers. They're fucking escapees from their system, which is doing a good job, just at a slower pace, which is what our Navy would be doing. Our Navy was doing a fucking good job at a slow pace. And people that were wanting to, you know, go and experiment with foreign, you know, tribal fucking sex whatever things would mutiny the ship. They'd turn all their knives on their swords on the fucking captain, take the ship to fucking Polynesia and fuck their lives away, and then die there, you know, from coconut overdose. I don't know. I do know that there's coconut milk and fucking coconut water in every fucking fridge. And that this fucking ship that we all, you know, rely on has never been in a worse state. I just can't see how, from my determination of history, stable, secure, morally grounded, spiritually grounded history, or Christian, is not allied in this moment with the Iranian Islamic regime at a slower, more stable pace. I don't need to agree or celebrate all of their developed, customs and things to do. And I would appreciate a little bit less influence. But in their mind, it's like they're just helping us do what we are unable to do in this moment. I guarantee you that will be their claim. All I need is a guarantee that they won't pursue right through, to them having total control. It's like, are you going to help us get control back, and then we can be allied against the ultra-liberal, radical, extremists? Of course they are. They're not idiots. This starts looking very different. It's a very different fucking world going on right now than what a lot of people are talking about. Very different. Very, very, very different world. To dare call a people now bombarded by fucking literal fucking rockets from the air and then, forced into a blockade to do the same things. It's like to protect. It's like this global influence on them. And I'll now give the comparison of what, in order to match what it means to be a escapee Iranian in Australia, you know what I mean, at, say, a gay pride festival, okay? From my hard and stable and secure reference point of 1901 federal Australia, which also have outlawed a gay pride festival. I'm not saying that that's what we should do. Okay, it's very difficult to piece together exactly why we created that as part of our structure, why we had that as part of it. It's very difficult. You know what I mean? But it wasn't ultra policed. It could be argued, and I've actually heard homosexual people mention this. It was better when it was closed. It's more exciting. It's more whatever. It's like, obviously there has been some really big pushback, but that comes from them. It's like when it was just a fringe thing. It's like even our culture that was systemically anti-gay was really, really gay. So it's almost like our stable, secure structure was gay as fuck. It just didn't talk about it, which is like that's what women were like. Women were whores and sluts. They just didn't talk about it. Which seems counterintuitive because the ultra open, liberal, radical experimentation of radical openness, which I am participating in right now because I have to catch up with them. I have to be out there with them to talk to them. I have to be like, I have to talk a lot. That's what you're all doing. It's like, do you not? How do you have these things like, we were an ultra, confined, homophobic, misogynistic culture, yet we were the ones that had the suffragette movement, and we were also the ones that had like all of our authors and people of prominence were kind of like pretty much openly celebrating homosexuality. That is some weird fucking mathematics. This is where I get to. It's like the Pride movement, the LGBTQ Pride movement, is not the British Empire's homosexual liberal movement. We already had that 120 years ago. We had it 200 years ago. The LGBTQ Pride movement, the Mardi Gras fucking bullshit, that's a Persian celebration. That's a fucking, that's a foreign, ultra fucking, celebratory homosexual. And it's like they're here, they've escaped their own government to come here and party like it's 1999 on our dime. And we can't talk about it because our radical fucking experimentational fucking like lunatic fucking liberals out here have made it taboo to mention race. Despite the fact that they're clearly in a race to the bottom of the barrel. The bottom of the barrel of rum in their global fucking Mardi Gras Persian fucking suicide dance party. The British Empire was started in Britain. Britain's cold, right? Our culture of romance and like literature, all these things, it's all this like, oh, this brooding, seduction and suspense. Because it's like a long, it's like you'd have to get something. It was a closed and quiet and dull and dreary landscape of order and conformity and all these things. So you would have to fantasize about these things and then push, and then it might be a year before you get to express physically your fucking desires for whether it's a woman or a man. That doesn't exist in a fucking 24/7 drug-fueled, alcohol-fueled fucking Persian fucking global dance party. Not just pushing against the Iranian regime, the Islamists, but pushing against our social order system that had outlets. It could be, it's like there's a thing that most artists and most creatives know. It's like through constraint is where the best, most beautiful art comes from. It has to come through constraint. This is what, if I can sit there and be a bit narcissistic and say I'm quite happy with my art, it is improved immensely being forced through the constraint of being a political prisoner. You know what I mean? It's not just like it's not like a fucking claim to fame. It's like it literally did, the constraint elevated my level of artistic expression and like intelligence expression, political expression, all of it. Not that I'm thanking you all. It's not a get out of jail free card. Sorry, excuse the pun, but it's like it is a known fact in the artistic community that constraint will produce beautiful results. And you can self-impose these restraints. So you lock yourself in a dark fucking, dark room with just nearly a desk and a candle, and you start writing a fucking romance novel, whatever it is. Like, this is our customs. Okay, you might send these love letters, our customs, because half the year the country was closed off. It was very dangerous and difficult to travel. You would stay in your castle or in your town or in your whatever. It's like if you'd fancied a traveling gentleman who was doing something else, like this is our culture, okay? But it was as gay as anything else. It was our gay. It's as gay our way. Which, what a fucking catchphrase that would be. Just as gay, but done our way. Not a fucking 24/7 drug-fueled, alcohol-fueled fucking, half-naked street fucking Mardi Gras party. That's not just as gay our way. That's just as gay their way. And they have escaped their fucking government to have a protest. And this is the thing. It's like a fucking dance festival fucking sex party is not a protest. Yeah, it just isn't. It ruins the intensity of the argument if it's like, oh my God, we need to have more rights. Like, that ruins it. Not even subtly. It's like, I can't understand how this blind spot is being maintained. A 24/7 drug-fueled dance street party, sex orgy fucking street. It's not a political protest. We have literal fucking stowaways that have escaped their like clearly progressing regime government that is progressing quite dramatically in its gestures, including sending a women's soccer team to Australia to compete on the global, political scene. And even the cries, it's like the cries from the fucking the Persians, stowing away on their 24/7 dance party in Australia. They're like, they're going to kill them. They're going to kill them. It's like, what? They're not going to kill them. They don't have a problem with their soccer players. They have a problem with our government, and they have a problem with the Persians, living in exile on the dime under the umbrella of a communist government that they know is clearly in conflict with their own people. Because they probably know that some dimwit in a fucking darkly lit room with a fucking intermittently glowing fucking lamp will put it together and blame the entire country of Iran and put the entire country of Iran in disrepute because the clear claim that Iran cannot deal with its exiles is hard and fast reality right now. Now, this isn't supposed to be in the purview of local or state or really even federal fucking politics. It is not. It is security. It is international security. It is military. This is a military conversation. And our government is not aligned to the national security of either of these regions. By appeasing Donald Trump's demands of holding these women, our government is now, what's the word? Associated, is now a ancillary or a accessory to this genocide. We've allowed them in. They've allowed the visas in. They've got here. They've played the game. They've sat there. They've done one thing. They've done their protest. And now they're being rolled up in this. And it's like, well, that's not how international relations are supposed to go. Now, this is where the censorship comes in. The Iranian regime is not seeing this side of Australia, this 1901 hard and fast protest here, not taking place in a 24/7 drug-fueled sex orgy street dance party, but taking place monotonously over and over again every day, 16 plus hours a day, using my voice, using the references of our history to constantly and quietly resolve to restore our precedents of stability and security that we initiated here in 1901, and to use that reference point in our future negotiations with global counterparts. That's it. I'm just as disgusted by the 24/7, drug-fueled, alcohol-fueled, rape-obsessed fucking dance orgy street party as the Iranian regime is. It doesn't mean I'm an ISIS fighter. Hence the dress. If I didn't have a dress on, you could mistake me for an ISIS fucking fighter, and probably would, considering you've already imprisoned me, for pushing back against your digital fucking concentration camp that would make Hitler blush. Like, I didn't even know I could do it with only the computers. I thought I've done it. Heil Hitler. Bullshit. This is the only way to differentiate myself so that you don't call me a terrorist when I attempt to restore the British Empire's stability so that we can have calm, cool, and collected negotiations about really important things like global energy and sustainability and, food targets and water supplies and everything that doesn't involve, a fucking headdress with sequins and fucking a 24/7 fucking global sex orgy dance party. I'm here to represent our authors, our thinkers, our innovators who were gay as fuck, who sat there in candlelight and wrote their gay love letters to their lovers around the world. It's like, that's who I am. That's who my father was, my grandfather was, my great-grand. I'm not saying they're all gay. I'm saying that's who we are. It's just as gay, but our way. Do you know what I mean? It's like there are members of the Islamic regime who are homophobic, but they have dancing harems of young boys. Gay. That's gay. I don't have any chance in hell in interceding into their thousands and thousands of years old culture in a hope to try and, I don't know, turn them from that into a Mardi Gras. It's the same, isn't it? It's the same. It's like guaranteed, some of those not all, some of those Mardi Gras goers, probably fucking pedophiles. It's like there's two opposite worlds going on. But unfortunately, it's like our world, our British Empire world, our Commonwealth world has, I would actually argue it's like on both sides has an extreme coming from Persia or from, I'll say Persia because it's easier. I don't want to get into the conflict of Arab because I don't know it enough. Where like the ultra right, the ultra totalitarian, religious regime is more extreme than ours, and the ultra liberal, ultra open, sex cult is more open and liberal than ours. So we're in like a weird Persian sandwich, trying to be like discreetly fucking English, and we're just like, and it's like how we're. And for some reason, our government, it's like there is. I really think it's like the only option our government has right now within what it has created. And it's so funny. It's like our Australian government right now, not me. I don't represent Australia. I represent the British Empire. And I keep that firmly planted at Mount Wise in Plymouth. The only responsible thing that our government can possibly do right now and legally do and has to be demanded to do by the global world, well, Albo, you have to invade Afghanistan on behalf of the Iranian Persians and your LGBTQ cohort of, radical, extremist, fucking liberal, fucking orgy, dance cult, child fucking mutilating pharmaceutical thing. And you have to live in Afghanistan. You have to. You just have to. There is no other fucking way that you can do any of this shit. There is nowhere else in the world that's going to take it. It's like if there is an Iranian regime in fucking Iran who has made these people leave to here and they are joining with our people here that we would like to leave, you need to invade Afghanistan and colonize Afghanistan, which is the hardest thing to do on earth. No one has ever successfully done this. And you need to claim that land on behalf of your socialist fucking delusion of Australia. Of Australia 2026. Albo. Who my claim is he would have been literally imprisoned. There's no doubt in 1901. Okay? Imprisoned for a manner of things, sabotage, terrorism, treason, debauchery, all the things. I don't know. So your only way out of this, Anthony Albanese, is to invade Afghanistan, and the Australian Army is not going to help you. You have to invade Afghanistan with your liberals and with your Iranians, with your Persians. That's all there is to it. You cannot use any of our military anywhere. You have to do this on fucking canoes to appease Greta Thunberg's fucking constraints. You have to canoes and fucking sailboats and catamarans and you know what I mean? Hang glidings and kite surfers. And good luck to you. Good luck to you. You know what I mean? Let me know. I'll visit. I will visit. So let's get this call now. Let's call this by 2028. We're going to have Albo's Afghanistan. Afghanistan. Right? Otherwise, you've got to send all the fucking Persians home to deal with that. They've got to vote. You're preventing them from their democratic process. So by 2028, Afghanistan will be Albo's, and that's it. That will prevent the mass suicide of the socialist fucking delusionary class. And I feel better now that there is a clear and defined pathway out of this. You know, yes, it is difficult. Yes, it will be, there will be casualties. There will be all types of things. There will be chaos. There will be, I don't know what's going to happen. I guess the Afghanistan people there with the Islamists will have to join the Iranians, and then the Persians in Iran that are upset with the Iranian regime will have to go to Afghanistan, and then Albo will be the Shah. Who'll be the Afghanistani Shah. Cool. All right. Good business today. Let's read the comments sections we've got Brad Doodles here, and we've got Shannon Cooker. So Brad Doodles has said, "Oh Jesus, my fucking eyes. Is there room in your zany schemes for paying child support?" I wonder if that actually is Brad. Brad, you're on an inflating, I will speak as Brad, you're blowing up a balloon that's going to pop. And when the balloon pops, you'll have nothing left, right? And most of the air that you're blowing in that balloon is filled with alcohol, right? So do not be smoking a cigarette when that balloon pops, because it will explode in a fireball, okay? So you're taking all of your money and blowing up a balloon from a place that you don't own, from a place that your family has just arrived in. You're blowing all those alcohol fumes into that balloon, and when it explodes, it's going to create a fireball. So do not smoke cigarettes while you're doing that. I hope that answers your question. And then he said, Shazza, please go touch some grass. I will. Thank you for the advice. You talking to yourself on YouTube several times a day is achieving what? We'll find out. Hopefully, 2028, Albo's Afghanistan. What is the purpose of this? As I said, hopefully, 2028, Albo's Afghanistan. I reckon Rudd will get on that. He can do. We can have Kevin 2027 Afghanistan. That's already, that writes itself. And then, obviously, once he lays the groundwork from his United States position as the ambassador, or as an outgoing ambassador, so he's ready for the job. He's outgoing United States ambassador. He's ready to be the American ambassador. He's ready to stroll straight into that. Kevin, 2027. It's pointless. No, it's not. As I just said, you know what I mean. I'm realigning global, distribution of resources and power and demographics so that we, avoid mass suicide. Re-enter society. I'm in society. I'm here presenting on camera, every day as myself. I'm not using a pseudonym and commenting in a comment section. So again, this just writes itself as well. I think your kids would appreciate a dad who isn't a cooker. Righto. Yeah, okay. What is a cooker? What is a cooker? Exactly. You know what I mean? I have to walk a fucking tightrope of being entertaining, to keep my enthusiasm up, to do all these things, to keep the confidence up, to do all this. It's like, what exactly are you doing? You're using my name. That's a lot of energy that you're putting in. Like, you've literally, I hate creating accounts for anything. It's why I don't have a phone anymore. I got sick of all the accounts and all the bullshit. I'd rather just go and rent a DVD. It's like, you've gone to the trouble of creating an account with my name on it so you can come and troll me in the morning in an environment where I don't have any like relevant expansion, which you could either perceive and are perceiving as that means that I'm, a non-existent person. You've dehumanized me in your ideological entrapment. But that could also be answered just as easily as the fact that I'm a covert fucking military intelligence operative, trying to bring observations from behind enemy lines into an environment. And we just use this because it's convenient, because it hides in the obscurity of people's assumption that it isn't real. So yeah. I think I think strongly. I think 2028 in Albo's Afghanistan, I'm pretty sure my children will be like, I'm so glad my dad was a cooker. You know what I mean? I'm so glad. I'm so glad that we don't have bombs dropping on us like that happening in Iran. And I'm so glad that my dad was able to put all of his reputation things, all of his monetary concerns, all of his sexual concerns. Believe it or not, I'm like an extreme fucking womanizer, so I love nothing more than going out and seducing women. I have to put all of that aside, which is what every fucking warrior has done for eternity. You know what I mean? And that is a huge thing. That's all I want to be doing. All I would like to do, and I could easily do that. I could go and keep a bar, pick up a different woman every night, and happily pay child support. So it's a really strange fucking world, but we've got to do what we all do. And me putting aside my womanizing for a moment so that I can, bring the world back to a stable, secure precedent it's a small price to pay. If you want to call me a cooker, then call me a cooker. But I'd rather be a cooker than a fucking online sucker, or than an online keyboard sucker. All right. Thank you.